Greetings and welcome to Connecting with Intent Show. I'm your host Muhammed Awais. On this episode, we have a very special guest. She is the founder at Rapper Builders, Nancy Zare. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Nancy Zare. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here and to be speaking with you.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
It happened when I was a child. My parents had a stormy marriage, and I wanted to help them get along better. After all, this podcast is about connecting with intent, and I wanted them to rekindle their love for each other. When I was 10 years old, I saw a TV show, and I tried that same intervention with my parents. It's amazing that they let me do it. At the end of that conversation, I turned to my father, and both parents were native born English speaking adults. But I translated what they said to each other. And I told my dad, "This is what you do so mom will feel loved." And I told my mom, "This is what you do so dad will be respected." Notice that the words changed. They changed because people don't always speak the same language. And that is what I discovered at a very early age, that you have to speak the language of the other person. And I apply that today in selling. You need to speak the language of your prospect.
What is your higher purpose in life?
No question that my higher purpose is to serve God and serve humankind. I've always had it in my heart to be a helper. I have always had a soft spot when I see people or animals, even plants in need. I want to nurture and care for and allow people to reach their potential and optimize their potential. So my higher purpose is to be of service, to know and do God's will. That's what keeps me on track.
What have been top three greatest challenges that you have had to overcome?
The first one is being female. I was born and raised in the United States, but I was born and raised at an era where we did not yet have equality for women. We had the vote, but women were traditionally underpaid and probably still are underpaid in comparison to men. And so being born a female, and I was born in a family where boys were prized more than girls. So I found myself having to constantly overcome whatever limitations I felt the family placed on me as a female. I was the youngest child, the only girl, and it was important for me to keep up with my brothers and to somehow participate and do the same things and enjoy the same benefits that they did. So that's the first challenge. Second challenge is I was born Jewish. And in, again, the United States, in our society, although many people today perhaps don't think of it, there's a lot of anti-Semitism. I was born after World War II and the Holocaust, and hence my family still had remnants of that fear instilled in them. For example, my last name is Zare. Well, my father was born with the name Cohen, and Cohen in the United States is very definitely associated with Jewish people. But he and his brother both recognized that they were being discriminated against because of their religious status. Not that either of them were terribly religious, but just the fact that they were born Jewish was enough to limit their opportunities. And so both of them changed their last names, and hence my father chose a name that Zare. And I'm asked many times, well, what nationality is that? And he chose it so that it was not quickly understood what that nationality was. And so that's the discrimination that I've had to overcome. And I think the last one I want to talk about is just mindset. I had a story in my head that happened at an early age that said I was somehow not valuable, not worthy. It's a false story, but I did not know it at the time. And it came about through an event in which I wanted my mother's attention, and she kept pushing me away and pushing me away, go out and play, leave me alone. And I took that message to mean that something was wrong with me. I was unworthy. And it wasn't until I'm in my middle age adulthood that I thought back to that situation and I realized that it was a story. My mother loved me. She was very excited to have a girl after the boys. However, at the time I wanted her attention, she was on the telephone speaking with her family members. Her mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and in that era, cancer was called the big C. People didn't even use the word cancer out loud because it was a death sentence. And she was struggling with the fact that she was going to lose her mother. So it wasn't about me, it was about the circumstance. In fact, that's probably one of the most important messages I could share with anybody listening. We often make up stories in our heads, especially when we're children, and those stories haunt us and they limit us as we get into adulthood. And until you look at the fact that the story was made up, you are a prisoner and you're living by that story. And as evidence comes through, you have eyeglasses that only focus on that information that supports you with that faulty story. And you discount the information that negates that story. And that's what I did until I took a close examination. And today I know that story is untrue. I am worthy.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
My greatest failure is not being able to maintain my marriage. I had a 7-year marriage. It ended in divorce. I today, I think a lot about the fact that, again, you asked me about some handicaps I've overcome, challenges and so forth. Well, I thought that being Mrs. Somebody or other made me elevated in status. And so to have my marriage end felt like I was somehow less than. So again, it played into my story that I just told you about feeling unworthy. So what have I learned and how have I recovered from it? Again, I have learned to go forward and claim my dignity, my strength. I think having a strong faith now in that higher power, who I choose to call God, that helps me stay focused. It helps me go to true north and stay on track.
What is the most impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
The most impactful book that I've read, and I continue to read it actually on a daily basis, is called The Textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am in recovery. This is not an endorsement for anybody because we're very careful about our anonymity, etc. But I will tell you that reading that book, that is what helped me connect with a higher power, and that is what's helped me be able to support other people who want to recover and want to claim a good life. And again, a very, what I'm going to say, God-centered life rather than a self-centered life. So what I've learned from it, I've learned again to have a relationship with a higher power that supports me in everything I do.
What are your goals for the next 12 months?
So business-wise, I have several projects I'm working on. I have a video course, How Buyers Buy, which is going to be launched shortly. And I also have been working on some podcasts, a series of podcasts. One of them is already launched called Client Builders, and there's a new one called Money Marketing Mindset, which will be launched in a couple months. So those are some of the projects I'm working on, plus helping. I may rewrite one of my books, specifically focused on helping service-based attorneys.
What advice you will give to younger yourself?
To love yourself, not in a self centered way, but as I told you, feeling unworthy really handicapped me for a long time. And so I would tell my younger self that you're okay just the way you are.
How can we support you?
I'm always looking for connections with like minded individuals, people who want to follow a spiritual path. Uh, from a work point of view, I'm looking to connect with service-based professionals, specifically attorneys, financial advisors, and consultants who want to be able to sell without being pushy, aggressive, have exaggerated marketing claims, and yet they want to enroll clients in an authentic way that aligns with their values. So come meet with me, share my content. I post regularly on LinkedIn. I appreciate your comments and your connections.
What would you say about your guest appearance on the show?
It's been amazing. I did not know I was going to go down some of the paths I took. Uh, Awais asked
Yeah.
me at the beginning of the show if I had read the questions, and I did, but I forgot them. And so I spontaneously answered on the spur of the moment. So I wasn't, perhaps if I were to rethink, because I am a thinker, I may not have said all the things I said, but I'm glad that I shared what was on my heart and what I was inspired to say. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much for your kind words. What closing thoughts would you like to share with our listeners? You know,
You need to find your North Star. What is it that excites you, delights you? What is it that you've been gifted to do? In my case, I was gifted to focus on helping people with communication. I tend to focus it now on helping people with sales conversations. But what is your gift? Find that North Star and follow it.
thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Connecting with Intent community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Muhammad West. Until the next episode, all